From the valley below.
From the valley
From
below.
what lies and so. From the valley below. That's all I got in my head for the last 4 days.
Another cup of coffee for the road.
Actually, I'll have a cold brew because I want to drink it faster. From the valley below. Oh man, that makes me so happy.
What?
That makes me.
What? We sound like Ethel Merman.
That's my vibe, dude. I'm full Ethel. Dude, you remember in Airplane? Oh my God, is it in Airplane where they're like he's in the hospital and he's like going through what everybody has, and this guy has PTSD from this, and this person has PTSD. This guy thinks he's Ethel Merman, and it's really Ethel Merman. It's like y'all be grand, y'all be great, y'all that. They're trying to hold her down, and they put like a needle in her, and she's just like ah.
Oh my God, that's hilarious,
dude. Because we're in it right now. This is it. This is the podcast. We start the second.
Oh,
you connect. You're in London right now, right?
I am.
Hello.
I am in. Yeah, hello. I am in jolly old London town, and the weather is holding up, so we're doing this outside, so it's working. The mic's working.
You sound great to me, man. You sound great to me, and you know what? I would love if I lived in London. I live. Oh no, we just let. There you go. You're back. I live in New York City, and you know I've lived here 4.5 years. Well, 4 years.
Oh
actually.
yeah.
And all I want is just a snow day. I want rain. I want to like listen, dude. Like I want to listen to this record and it just gray out and just like absorb this. It's like so I think, and that's also what I love about the British. Is that I feel like all of the music that I love, the Radioheads and you know the Beatles and Coldplay and just so on and so forth down the line, it's all because of the weather in England, and it's just that gray. Do you know what I mean? Like the gray just covers them, and it's like it almost makes them melancholy and like dig deeper because they're such. They're in such. Do you feel that being out there?
It keeps them inside recording.
Yeah,
they don't.
We got nothing to do. What are we gonna? We can't go out and play soccer. We might as well. Hold on, I got Ethel Merman. Don't go outside. It's all rainy and stuff. Are you working on something out there? What do you? I mean, or do you live out there? I mean,
I live out in London. I live out here in London, but I'm working on a show in Ireland at the moment. So I'm back and forth, digging Ireland. Yeah, man. You ever been to Ireland?
I've been to England. I've never been to Ireland. I'm going to do a mini tour of like the UK and Europe. Me and not to name drop, but me, Jim Jeffries, Jimmy Carr, and this guy Steve Byrne, another American comic. We're going to see Oasis at Wembley. So so we're gonna do a couple shows out there. I do the show where comedians do stand up and then they sing a cover song. We're gonna set a jam up, but then me and my agent, because of the podcast and just through clips and whatever I've done, I've got a nice little fan base out there. So I'm like I'm excited. Nice. Yeah, but I've never performed in anywhere other than like Mexico, Canada, and America. So yeah. How long have you been out there for?
Ooch. I've been out here on and off steadily for, it's going to be 10 years now because of, I did the Fantastic Beast movies out here. And so we did 3 of those. So I was finding myself out here a lot. And then it just became home after a while. Like my kids grew up here and they were in school. So it was just like, all right. I guess we're living here for a while because I grew up in Brooklyn. I always thought that I was gonna live in Brooklyn for the rest of my life, But it's weird how where
I know I get it. I'm looking over like and like that you grew in. I mean, but you went to school in Boston, so you're an East Coast guy, and were you? I mean, I know you've done musical stuff. I'm assuming you were always a very musical kid, right?
Yeah, I love doing the school musical, and I was in bands and stuff, and I always loved singing and making up songs, and yeah, always love music. Always have to have music playing, and it's
Yeah.
just a big inspiration for I can't work out without music. I can't do a
You
lot
ever
of things
try
without.
to? You're like a crazy
Yeah,
person. You're like, you see somebody with that. Dude, I sing when I work out, and because
yeah,
everybody's got their headphones on. Dude, at the gym, I'm telling you, and this is to all the fans out there, if you ever just want to rip fart and not give a shit if anybody hears you, the gym, everybody's listening to music. So you can just cut one. And this woman yelled at me. She goes, you got to stop singing. And I'm like, well, you need to be listening. Why aren't you listening to music? You should be listening to music on your
yeah.
headphones.
What's wrong with you?
I'm not the crazy person. You're the crazy
Yeah,
person.
exactly.
Did
It
you
used to just
find
used to
good?
just be the airplane. It used to just be the airplane where you could just rip it. But now in
Oh
the
yeah,
gym,
dude.
you can now concerts. Anything you just
Concerts. You do anything.
yeah,
You do
love
anything
it.
at a concert, dude. What so because here's the thing, and I want to dive in to the record because
Okay.
this is such a meaty record. I don't know if I should say it now. I'm gonna wait until we get to the thing. But I'm 45 years old. I, of course, knew about Dylan since a young age, but never found his way into my life and listened to a record until I started doing the podcast. Like, when did you find Dylan?
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Um, I found Dylan in my 20s, like right out of college. I was collecting music. I was collecting. Back then it was you'd go to Tower Records or whatever, and you get a bunch of CDs and shit.
Oh
And
yeah,
so I found the box set of Jimi Hendrix at Monterey, um, with him on the cover with the guitar with the fire, and
yeah.
uh, and little I didn't know that Monterey, that was Albert Gross, the part that I played in the Complete Unknown. That was
Oh
Albert
yeah.
Grossman's festival. So that was I didn't realize it, but that was my first introduction to Albert.
How's that?
And so I'm watching. It was actually a DVD, So I'm watching it, live at Monterey, and he says, he's singing like a Rolling Stone, Jimmy, and he says, I'd like to sing a song by Bob Dylan. That's his grandma over there, and he points to his bassist or his second guitar, and I guess he looks like Bob Dylan's grandma. That was really fucking funny. I was like, Jimmy, he's hysterical, and then halfway through the song, he goes, "Yeah, man, I know I missed a verse. Don't worry about it." And then I was like, I love this song, and I was like, "Ooh, what is that verse that I missed or
Yeah.
he missed it?" So that's how I found Dylan. So I went to the source, and I listened to Dylan's version, and he kind of reversed the verses in it, and so that was my first introduction. That song, which is like I love like a Rolling Stone. It's like such an anthem for
Yeah, it really
for
is.
artists, and so that was my in, and then like I guess like a lot of people, I just saw how prolific Dylan was. Like, oh my God, there's like so much to delve into. So I started with his earlier stuff, and then I worked my way through it, and yeah, I mean, I still haven't listened to all of his music.
So much.
I was one of those Dylan lovers that like, oh, I love that song, but I wasn't like oh, I gotta hear that album. Like if I had to choose an album, I would say I guess my favorite is Highway 61 Revisited, because it has a lot of songs that has like a Rolling Stone on it, has all these other songs on it that I dig. But I was excited when you were like, ooh, let's look at Desire, and I only knew a couple songs from it, and so I listened to it over and over again, and I realized I just realized, my God, so much of his music has seeped into a lot of the bands that I love today, and
Sure.
specifically Jack White and the White Stripes, and like and I thought that was his song, One More Cup of Coffee. I thought that was a Jack White song. I didn't know that.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm listening to it, Dylan's version. I was like, Jesus, this is incredible. He has influenced everyone. And yeah, where you want to start, man? Where you want to start with the album?
So I've got my buddy Morty, who I go over everything with, and we usually sit down and we talk for a couple hours about every record. You know, he's just a music encyclopedia, and I'll be completely honest with you, and this is the thing, is like I said, I was never a Dylan fan before this. I still am inching my way into being a fan of Dylan. We did this, or let me say this. We did Dylan wrong on the podcast because we started the first Dylan record I listened to, and the fans of the podcast are probably like, dude, you've said this all the time, but I feel like I have to explain it to my guests, is that my first Bob Dylan record that I ever listened to was Time Out of Mind, and it was because of the podcast, which is not the way you do Dylan. You start at the beginning. You have to know where he was to appreciate where he's going. You know what I mean? It would be like, are you a Radiohead fan?
Yeah, I like some songs of Radiohead. Yeah, sure.
Okay. So, all right. So yeah, but it would be like listening to King of Limbs, their most like avant-garde out there record, you know, first, and then being like, oh, now go back and listen to the Bends and listen to Creep. Right. And so I've had a real hard time really getting into Dylan because every song off of Time Out of Mind was 8 minutes long, and it's about Jesus and death and the devil. Yeah. And so now we're starting to get into the thick of it. So to start out, like, we've done several Bob Dylan records. So to all the fans, you know, you can go and listen to those episodes for more biographical information. We don't have to go through all of his stuff because I really, you know, we've done so much. I think this is our 6th Dylan record we've done already.
Wow.
So I know. But this is now, dude, this is the thing. And to everybody else out there, you know, stop the podcast now and go out and see the film Complete Unknown, starring you. I mean, that must have been, as a fan, that must have been amazing to like work on a project like that.
I'm part of an enormous ensemble of amazing actors.
Sure, yeah.
And it's led by Timothée Chalamet. I can't. That's the only way I can say his name now. Is like Adam Sandler. Have you seen the movie? You enjoyed the movie?
I have yet to see it. I've been traveling so much, but I think I'm gonna go see it tonight because once we do the episodes, I become like obsessed. And this record, dude, I'm gonna be honest, it was the first Bob Dylan record. On the first listen, I was like, I love this.
Yeah.
I dug this record immediately.
Yeah, Desire is pretty great, and Hurricane as the first song, like that's a powerful song to begin the album. It gets you hooked. But I doing a Complete Unknown. I mean, that's a new caliber of film for me to be involved in. With, you know, that being surrounded by that caliber of talent and director Mangold, who I love, who did Walk the Line, who was like that was my introduction to Johnny Cash. Like, oh, you know, so I was like, oh my God, we are in good hands here.
Yeah.
And then there's Ed Norton, you know, and Boyd Holbrook, if you like Johnny Cash, he does an amazing Johnny Cash in the movie. And Monica Barbaro, who is now nominated for Academy Award. She's Joan Baez. She's fantastic in the film. Yeah, it's people are digging it. The people are going back to see it over and over. I think, yeah, it's. I am just just so honored to be part of the film on so many levels.
Yeah,
Just to be to play Albert Grossman,
I know.
who was such an interesting character in the middle of all this moment of music history, where he was surrounded by just so much talent, like Dylan and Baez and all of the like Hendrix and Joplin and like all of these people that were just popping up all over the place. And Albert, um, he saw an opportunity to just collect all these people, and he was really inventing, the managing business as he went along. He
Yeah,
so like Dylan, for instance, and it's all throughout the movie. Like Dylan would have a song, and he'd take the song and be like, "Ooh, let's give that to Peter, Paul, and Mary, and let's have Joni sing that a little bit." And before Dylan even had a chance to sing his own song, and he was kind of like he was making like a chop shop out of it. He was chopping up songs and giving them out to everybody,
yeah,
and it was kind of brilliant because his point of view, I think, was, well, if it's a hit song, then everyone's going to be singing it, right? So
mhm.
you might as well have them all singing it to begin with. And it worked, because that's how I found Dylan, through
Yeah,
Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy
yeah,
singing
yeah,
his song.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
like, okay, I understand that he was ahead of his time as far as the business went, but he uh, he made a lot of enemies, and he broke a lot of rules, and he was definitely taking 50% from Dylan, and yeah, he would say, yeah, well, of course I was taking 50%. I got you here, and no one else is providing this kind of protection, this kind of influence that I'm. So and there's a lot of his philosophy out there. Like if you go look at documentaries like Don't Look Back, and like there's so much footage out there of Albert, who is who has become this like infamous figure, um, where you see him wanting to not just be behind the scenes, but wanting to have that recognition of, yeah, no, I helped make these people, and he so it was interesting to play that kind of character, um, and I approached it um almost in a like I leaned into the tall tale mythology, which I love so much about Dylan. Like Dylan is such a mysterious fellow, he's making up his own past, and then
yeah,
like admitting to maybe selling his soul, for his
yeah.
talent. So
Everything he does is like with the record, people are like, like, oh, well, what does that mean? Like he's doing
yeah.
this, but like he's wearing makeup. Like, what is he trying to say? It's all very like, it's like it's never just like cut and dry with him, where you're like, yeah, black and white. It's like you have to like there's a mystery to him,
Well,
right?
he said, yeah, absolutely. He reinvents himself. He was Robert Zimmerman, from Minnesota, whatever. And he changed his name. He changed his past. It's all in the movie, where he's telling his girlfriends, "Oh yeah, I was in the circus. Yeah, I was. Yeah," and he talks about how you got to be part of the freak show. Like you have to almost be like a freak that people can't take their eyes off of,
Mhm.
um, in order to make it in the business. And he's like creating this legend for himself right away, stepping off the bus in New York City. So I really looked at that aspect of him, and I thought, ooh, I want to apply this to my character. Like how am
Mhm.
I connected to that mythology? So so Bob describes Albert as this like Sidney Greenstreet character from from the Maltese Falcon. If you ever seen that movie,
I have, yeah, I know what you're talking
yeah,
about.
Sidney Greenstreet, and so I try to embody that kind of like he's from like the 40s. You know, he never got out of the 40s, the 1940s, and so I kind of drape that over the character. He's got this cigarette holder, and he's constantly in a cloud of smoke. And I thought, ooh, what if Albert was sent as an agent of chaos? You know,
Ooh,
from the guy that Bob made that deal with. You know,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
and Albert was sent as insurance to make sure that nudging Bob in the right direction. Yeah, go electric, Bob. Yeah, yeah. In the in the guise of more butts and seats, but really just pushing him toward getting the full message out, to the
Sure.
public. And so that was really fun playing that. Like I didn't really
I
discuss that.
bet.
I didn't discuss that with Mangold because there wasn't really a big rehearsal process at all. We just got there, but I had all this in mind. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. I thought, oh yeah, I love this mythology aspect to Bob, and maybe that's one of the tall tales. Maybe he's just going along with that mythology. Oh yeah, yeah, just like everybody else. I sold my
Yeah,
soul at the crossroads or whatever. But I just find that so fascinating. And then here he is, like 100 years later, and he's still fucking here. And then it's just like, wait a
yeah,
minute. And then like
yeah, dude.
you look at guys like Mick Jagger, and like people who are just continuing and nonstop, and like, wait, maybe they got to pay their dues before they get out of here for some reason.
I mean,
I love that kind of I love that kind of conspiracy stuff. So
I mean,
I,
I could see the Mick Jagger making a deal like that. Like he's 82 years old with more energy than Usain Bolt, and he's up there. It's just like, I mean, dude, it's to see like Dylan. I saw Dylan in I think 2006, and I mean, he stood there. He didn't even face the audience. He just was in the back actually, and just did his songs. They were on tour. He was the openers were the Rack and Tours, so I knew the tour manager, so I was on. And I mean, I just wish at that time that I appreciated him. And I think like for everybody out there, because I'm going to go see the movie tonight, I recommend everybody's raving about it. I mean, but they don't really do that. I'm assuming they don't talk about this period in the movie, right? The Desire period.
no, the movie is based on the book Going Electric, which is about just the short period of time between 1961 and 1965. So Desire was 76. Like that's when I
76.
was
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
that's
yeah,
when
yeah.
I was born. But so this takes place just in that window where he rises to folk the top of folk celebrity, and then
Yeah.
he right at the pinnacle of that, he says, actually, you know what, I'm gonna go electric,
Yeah.
um with like a Rolling Stone.
Yeah.
And he does it at this festival notoriously, and the and the audience goes fucking nuts. Half of them are booing him, and the other half are like, "Yeah, this is
Fuck
fucking
yeah, dude.
great."
That's awesome, man.
So
That's
that's
so
all in the
crazy.
movie.
So then I mean, let's catch us up and let's catch the audience up of how we got to this record then. I feel like the mythology and
Yeah.
all that is out there, and like I said, go see the movie, watch a million documentaries. Let me see where I can pick this up. Okay, so this is 1970s. His prior record, Blood on the Tracks, considered his breakup record, and we will get into that in a little more as we get through the songs. But that record was one of the highlights of Bob's career, in a career that has some real highlights. This is also one of his most collaborative records. He had previously worked with the band as his backing musicians. And in fact, in between Blood on the Tracks and this record, the record company released the Basement tapes, which we did on this show as well. However, that was not an official release. It was more of a stopgap, which featured the loose collaborative jammings that Dylan and the band did before the band released their monumentally influential records with him. The thing about this record is, I think about this podcast, if we've done so many records, and when I talk to Morty, my writer, he's constantly calling back this stuff that we've done. And Bob Dylan is one of those great hubs where, like you even said about, you know, the influences that you've heard, where there are so many connecting tissues to other things that we've done on this podcast. It's all just like an interweb where Dylan is just involved in so much of it. Like we've done Graham Parson records. So we've talked about Emmylou Harris, who was part of this record. We've also had Lenny. We've also had Lenny Kaye. I don't know if you know who he is, but he was Patti Smith's guitarist and collaborator. And Bob Dylan was always watching what was going on around him and would often be inspired by movements, and would then show his interpretation of it in his projects. So he had seen Patti Smith Band prior to them putting out their first record. He was so intrigued by the interplay between the band. And remember that when we played with the band, although he had jammed with them and collaborated to a degree, they were doing Bob Dylan songs and fleshing them out on stage. And this was building from bottom up in some cases. Not only do other musicians and singers appear, but Bob actually co-writes with his tour manager, Jacques Levy. Did I say that right? I think so. So 10 years prior, he had gotten in this terrible motorcycle accident, which essentially sidelined his career, as well as putting into him touring for quite a while. So this is not just a return to form, but this is a return to the stage. And in the meantime, rock and roll has gone through many phases. The Beatles stopped touring about the same time as Bob Dylan, but rock and roll exploded into the juggernaut that we know about in the mid-70s. The bands that are out there, Dan, are like Led Zeppelin, The Who, The Stones. So you can imagine Dylan is watching these stadium tours, and he's not just going up on stage to play his songs from 10 to 12 years earlier against that background. He wants to rock out. So he wants to put together the Rolling Thunder Review. And that was like a rock and roll circus that he took on the road. He really wanted a whole show. He wore makeup. He rocked out to his tunes and had other singers and bigger instrumentation. This record comes out in the middle of that tour. So this is happening while rock and roll, and let's face it, cocaine is the biggest thing that, and also punk rock is being formed in New York. So this is Bob Dylan, who's over 10 years in the game and a pivotal character returning to form and reflecting on that energy. You know, thoughts on Blood on the Tracks, like, and kind of like the difference between that and this. Do you have anything?
I think, I think that, okay. So at the end of the movie, A Complete Unknown, he's riding off. He's just basically set fire to his folk career, and he's just like, I'm what I am right now. This is what I am. And so he's driving off on his motorcycle into the sunset, and I believe that he's about to get into his accident, and I think that's basically how I think the movie ends. And I think the accident is so important because it makes him stop and hunker down and slow down and really try to figure out, whoa, what is this fucking train that I'm on? You know, I got this thing in motion, and I've just been going and going and going and going and going and nonstop writing and performing. And okay, now God is just like, chill out.
Yeah.
And so he hunkers down, and during that time, he finds out. I'm coming from the Albert Grossman angle, where
Please take us there. Yeah.
he finds out that Albert is stealing from him. He's taking 50%. And so I think at that moment, when he's forced, and then by 1970, he's gone separate ways with Albert. And I think that, like songs like "All Along the Watchtower," which are like this epic fucking like cinematic song, is, I think, his fuck you to the industry, to the music industry, because he's the Joker and I'm the thief in that. Albert Grossman is supposedly the thief in that. That was Dylan's way of saying, like, I know what you did. I know what's going on, and I'm taking control of my career back here. And so I think that was a pivotal moment. And then all the music after that, I think that especially in the early 70s, I think that he was, you know what? Okay, here's this other thing about Dylan, which is so fucking fascinating to me.
What's that?
Where he doesn't know who he is. He just keeps reinventing himself. Like you do the research, and when he had bands in high school and you know, whatever, he was a rock and roll guy. Like, he freaking loved Elvis, and like,
yeah.
And then he just decides, oh, you know what? And this is after he goes to the crossroads, apparently. He just decides, you know what? I think I could get pretty far doing this folk thing. And it's got, you know, it's deeper music, you know, and I like that. And so then he becomes the king of folk. And everyone's like, okay, they're telling him, okay, that's who you are, man. You can't be anybody else. And then he says, no, I'm all sorts of different sounds. And then he does so many different sounds, and he doesn't sing a song the same way twice.
Mm-hmm.
And
really doesn't.
He still, I think he's done that so much that he doesn't know what his sound is. Like, I don't think he ever knew exactly. He's like this like chameleon that's just constantly changing and changing and changing, but he never really had an original sound. And so fast forward to, have you seen, I find this so fucking fascinating, The Greatest Night in Pop, about We Are the...
Yeah, my favorite thing was when Merle Haggard, when they tried to get him saying, when Stevie Wonder's like, we should do like an African, like Kenyan thing, and Merle Haggard's like, I'm fucking out of here, man. He's like, yeah, dude, I ain't doing that. He just takes off.
Right. Cowboys don't sing that.
He's like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about there, man.
My favorite part of that documentary is watching Bob Dylan in the headlights for the first half of it, not even singing, just kind of like he's in his head, just like, man, what is my sound? Who am I right now? Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And just as, oh, hey, honey, I got it. We have a puppy, so we're bringing the puppy out right now. No, you don't mind the puppy. Yeah.
What kind did you get?
We got a Cavapoo, and she likes to poo. She definitely likes to poo.
Well, it's a puppy, but is it a big dog or small dog? Luckily, with puppies, the poops are always small because the dog is small. I have an 80-pound Doberman Pinscher. So
let me see it.
Yeah, let me see the dog.
Bring her over.
A British dog.
Yeah, she is a King Charles Cavalier. Come here, sweetie. You want that?
Oh, what a blessing.
Here you go, sweetie. Come here. Oh my God. Look at this little puppy.
Let me see. Pulled her up.
Oh
yeah, dude. Oh yeah.
Hey, honey.
Oh, it's got that smell. Oh, it's the best.
Oh,
dude.
my
Puppy
gosh.
smell.
She's eating my cord. Okay, let it go.
Yeah. If I could recommend anything, if you work for the next year and a half and train that dog for the next year and a half, you will, dude. It was the most. I mean, when I got my Doberman, I wanted to show everybody how put together my life was. So I hired a woman. I hired a woman. I did everything she said. My dog, she's a real service animal. I take her. I travel every weekend. I bring her everywhere. I can take the dog into any situation, and nobody complains. No one's ever questioned that it's a service animal. Like, so train, even big or small. You train that dog, it'll be the best relationship you've ever had. Have you had dogs before?
This is our first dog.
This is your.
No. This is our...
Have you had a dog before? Like you never had a dog growing up?
No, never.
Really?
Never had. I always wanted one. And I'm really good with dogs, like other people's dogs. But this is my daughters were like, we want a puppy. So I was like, all right, let's do it. And it's like really fulfilling this need from when I was a kid. Like I was like, oh my God, I get to have a puppy, and so it's really sweet. It's a lot of work, but it's like having it's like having a baby, but the baby is able to run 100 miles an hour.
Exactly. So and the baby will chew on cords, and just like you like look at it, and you're like, just say something, just let me know. Like, am I doing a good job? Are you cool? Or, why are you acting weird? Get insurance. Get insurance on the dog, dude.
Everyone says it.
Get insurance. It was the best thing I've ever done. I do one where it's like 90% of everything's covered, and dude, you're gonna be fine. You got a good. You're in a good place. I think also it's you're gonna kill it.
Thanks, man. Yeah, we're doing okay over here.
Let's try to dive into some of the songs, or unless you have something else you want to add. You just seem like
we were talking about I love that moment in the greatest, sweetie, the greatest night of pop, where he's just to finish that thought that he's trying to he gets to the part where like, okay, man, you and the boss are gonna riff on this one part, and he gets up to the mic, and he's like, he's not sure what to do, and I'm like, oh my God, everyone here is looking up to you, pal. How are you? Yeah, like what? And then this like moment which I love, where Stevie Wonder is like, "Come over here, man. Let's work it out." And he's like, "Yeah, let me work it out with Stevie." And then Stevie starts doing a Dylan impression. You know?
He kind of like teaches him how he wants him to do. Yeah. He has him.
And then you see, what? And then you see Bob smiling, like, "Yeah, okay, I get it." And then he kills it, singing Stevie's version of Bob. Whatever. I'm just like, what? Who is this man? Who is this guy? Who is he? Does he know? It's fascinating. I'm sorry. That's the point.
No, dude. I completely understand it, and I think that is why that's why he's got all these records on here. That's why when I went to see him in Northern Virginia back in 2005 or 2006, there was this Harvard like literature student that like we had met, and he's like, I've been following him around, on this whole tour. I'm obsessed with him and everything about him. It's like there is a mystique about him. It's like and so even when you're going into like a song like Hurricane, which is about Reuben Carter, the boxer, there's still so many like, is he really talking about that? Is it this? Like what a great way to open the record. And I mean I remember Hurricane the first time I heard it, which was in Dazed and Confused, when they're in the bar scene and they play that part, and it's just that was how I got introduced. So when the record opened up with this, immediately I was like, okay, cool, I know what's going on. I love this. I love this song. And if the rest of the record is in this kind of style, like, what do you think about opening the record with Hurricane? What do you? I'm
so curious why he did that, because it seems like it should be batting fourth.
Yes. Clean up, dude.
Yeah. So they didn't know. Like he didn't know if it was going to be a hit, or he didn't know if it was, because that's the biggest song on that album, I think.
It is.
Yeah. So usually you don't start with that.
Well, sometimes you kick him in the gut, and I think that's what he was doing. An 8-minute and 33-second song. If you don't know the story, everybody, about Reuben Carter. It's a boxer who spent 19 years in jail for a murder. Bob Dylan felt that he did not commit. This is before all of that stuff had happened. So before he's getting released, this is 10 years before he gets released. Carter's case is complex and filled with legal missteps. June of 66, 3 white people were gunned down at a bar in Paterson, New Jersey. Witnesses described 2 black men as the murderers. Police pulled over Carter and his friend John Artis, who were both black, but otherwise didn't fit the description of the killers. They're released. Carter resumed his boxing career, losing a fight on August 6th, but 2 months later, he and Artis were charged with the murders. The case hinged on the testimony of Arthur Bradley and Alfred Balow, 2 white men with criminal records who claimed they were en route to rob a factory when they witnessed the shooting, and that Carter and Artis were the killers. Carter was sentenced to 30 years to life. Artis got 15 to life. Bradley and Balow got reduced sentences for their crimes. In prison, Carter worked relentlessly to tell his story to earn his freedom. Many sympathized with his case, including a writer who helped him publish his autobiography, which was published in 1974. Carter had a copy sent to Dylan, who read it and took up the case, writing the song about him and raising money for him in his 1975 Rolling Thunder Review Tour. Soon after Carter's book was published, Bradley and Balow changed their stories, claiming they were coerced into their testimony. In 76, Carter and Artis' convictions were overturned, but months later were again convicted in a second trial. So in 85, the case reached the Supreme Court, and this time Carter and Artis were exonerated for good. Carter died on August 20th, 2014, at the age of 76. I know his professional boxing career was 27, 12, and 1. So I wanted to ask you, because this is a real guy. This guy was alive. This guy, when he wrote this story, this isn't some mythical thing that Dylan's making up. You know, you've played Coppola in The Offer. You played Albert Grossman. What is it like playing a real life person? These aren't fictional. These aren't some mythological characters. Like, these are real people that exist. And for the most part, some of them, I mean, Coppola alive, you know, Albert Grossman's still alive, I'm assuming, or did he pass away? I don't.
No.
But
Grossman died in 86.
In 86. So what is that pressure like, and what goes into it?
Yeah, man. Okay. If you haven't seen The Hurricane with Denzel Washington, that's one of the great performances. And he's obviously playing a real person, and he probably should have won the Academy Award for that. Yeah, that was my introduction to the story and the song.
Yeah.
Playing someone that's alive is crazy. Like, playing Coppola, that's nuts. I mean, the man is here. He just did Megalopolis. Yeah. Like, he's still creating, and he's I got, what's crazy about that is he appreciate, like, I got a text through somebody from him that said he appreciated what I did, but it was historically inaccurate. It wasn't exactly what happened, and he it's not his favorite thing, because Coppola was going to do his own story about the same subject with Jake Gyllenhaal, and Oscar Isaacs was going to play Coppola, and so that got obviously pushed to the side because of our project for some reason.
Sure, yeah.
So that was an interesting connection there, but I was happy to hear that he thought I did a good job. I loved playing Coppola. Oh my god, that was like a freaking time machine, man. Like,
imagine.
if you're a fan of the Godfather movies, and which I am, I got to step into his shoes and be on the Paramount lot, on streets where they actually filmed The Godfather, and that was just like, to be part of the history. Like, when you play somebody that's real, that made such ripples through our zeitgeist, It's I mean, it's surreal to be connected to that. It kind of like secures, you in the annals of time when you're connected to someone who has made such a has influenced so many. And so and so that was amazing to play Albert Grossman, to be part of that mythology. I'm just like, and it's and to have the movie actually be something that people love, and it's getting some good feedback. That's amazing, man. Like, I I would love to just keep on playing, real people for the rest of my life.
What do you
Make
do?
make a
What do
career
you?
out of that.
Which you totally can. You totally can, dude. I mean, but what do you do to prepare? Do you just start watching old videos, or
Well,
like,
thank God. Yeah, thank God for those two characters. There's just a ton of stuff. Like, watch
yeah,
Hearts and for Coppola, just watching Hearts of Darkness. Like,
exactly, yeah,
and I watched that when I was 15, when I started getting into acting. So I've been familiar with that Coppola energy for a while, and I was handed this. Like, you can go buy the Godfather Notebook, which is this big like tome that he carried around with him, where he cut out all the pages that he wanted to use for the film from the novel. And from his theater days, he had this giant book where he pasted all the pages in, and then he had room on the margins to make notes. So I had all of his notes, all of his casting ideas, all of his. This is a book you can buy, and all of his anxieties. Like, having stuff like that is priceless. Like, like, thank God there's so much out there. And also for Albert, like, there's a lot of stuff I watched, like, that I could glean what his personality is from. But then, like, I try to say, okay, yeah, there's a lot of this information, but I have to make this my own. So I try to find things that are familiar to the character in my own life. A lot of, like, filling in the gaps. Like, well, I don't know what it's like to be that caliber of director, for instance, but I know what it's like to be freaking young and hungry and wanting to prove myself.
yeah,
And but not having the full respect yet, like that kind of thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
these are themes that I recognize, and you can infuse it. And then I recently, I like to like I like to have a secret. I like the thing with Albert, where, yeah, maybe he is an agent of chaos from hell, like
Yeah.
maybe he is maybe and I do, like, animal work where, like, I'm 5'7", and I'm playing guys that are taller than I am a lot of the
Sure.
time.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
there's
yeah.
only so much that you can do with lifts, But so I in my mind, I'll choose, like, an animal that's, like, big,
Yeah.
like Coppola in my mind was a black bear. He was a bear, and he just took up a lot of space, and he kind of walked like that. He kind of, like, walked straight up with his arms down. And Albert, I was like, oh, he's like a polar bear, those two just happen to be bears. I switched to the animal kingdom, but
Yeah, yeah.
Albert, if you look at his hair is so ridiculous. It's like this giant, like, tsunami of hair, and I was like, wow, he looks like a polar bear that's molting or something. And so I was, and also, that's the largest of the bears, and they're also, like, so cuddly on the outside, but they're freaking vicious.
Yeah.
The way that Albert would fight for his clients, I was like, okay, he's got that animal instinct, and plus a lot of clues. Like, Albert carried a gun with him. he he was a gangster. I feel like, in order to make it in the music business, you had to be a bit of a gangster, and I feel like if Albert didn't get into the music business, he would have been a full-on gangster.
Yeah.
So just little things like that, knowing that I'm holding, I have a gun, like a replica gun under here or whatever, but I have that weight. It may not even come out in the scene, but I have it there. And that, that informs how you stand, how you carry yourself. There's little things like that. But yeah, I use the full spectrum, the metaphysical all the way to, whatever shoes I'm wearing.
Dude, I would love to, like, if I get to play anybody, I want to be the guy, Fred Schneider from the B-52s. Just like, have that voice, kind of. It's more Ethel Merman. That's all I can do. You know what I mean? This is
car on the side of the road. You do it,
15
man.
miles. I had a joke. It was like, he's doing exactly what he should be doing. It would be weird if he worked at a hospital and he was like, the tumor is benign. It's a $30 copay.
Emergency level 4.
Code red. He's starting to seize. Clear. Shock. We bring him back to life. Come on. I love that's. I can't do many impersonations, but that's one that I think I got pretty.
But you just wrote a whole new B-52 song.
Dude. Cut it. Put it on TikTok. Let's do this.
It's called Defibrillation Lover. That's what it is.
Albert Grossman, Francis Ford Coppola. Now Fred Schneider, because that's what's up. Let's talk about ISIS, the second song on the record. This was written. I lost you. I love it. This was written while Dylan was separating from his then wife Sarah. Therefore, many fans believe the song alludes to the couple's turbulent relationship. So, Blood on the Tracks is considered the breakup album, and he and Sarah were still estranged during that record. Although they did get back together after this record for a while, they eventually got divorced a year later. ISIS is the first song on the record that really deals with an estranged and separation, but places it in a mythological and historical perspective. In a way, it's more of a long poem because it really has a chorus. Let's talk about mythology. You have been a part of some of the biggest franchises. Let's be honest. I mean, Harry Potter is already a Star Wars sized phenomenon, and you've been a part of the prequels, similarly to when George Lucas put out the 3 prequels. Obviously, when you went into those, Harry Potter had already broken all the records and had been the biggest thing in the world. How much pressure is on not to go down in fandom history as like a Jar Jar Binks?
Oh my God, that's so hysterical. Yeah, no, that's the reference I would use, and I love Jar Jar. I love the actor that plays Jar Jar. And he's actually coming out with a documentary soon, I think, about the angst that he went through playing that character. So I have love for him. But that is the reference. Like, that's the reference that people use. Like, I hope I'm not Jar Jar.
I know.
Like, when he was on set, they were like, "You're the greatest. Like, everyone's gonna love you." And then but oh boy, yeah. Like I felt like you feel like that when you're coming on to a train that's in motion. Like I felt like that on The Walking Dead. I was like, "Ooh, I hope I'm not an asshole." Like I hope people, like I hope I can, jive with all these people. And and it's still in question whether I succeeded or not. But and then doing Fantastic Beasts movies is the same thing. You're coming on, but the beautiful thing about those was those characters they didn't have a novel that people were going to go back and say, "Hey, you're not saying it exactly how I imagined it."
Exactly.
So we had a little freedom there, but yeah, there was a lot of freaking pressure. Like you hope people dig you. You hope that you, you don't want to let people down. And and the mythology of that, like to be part of that, like you mentioned Star Wars, like the cycle of the myth. Like Joseph Campbell, like that stuff. I love that stuff. Like that's my kind of history, and that's Star Wars. That's Harry Potter. that they follow the hero's journey, and to be one of the like to play an archetypical character on one of those journeys is like so fulfilling as an actor. It's really cool.
I bet. I bet, we talking about, you talked about The Walking Dead. You've if I'm not mistaken, it's like you've been the creator and writer of graphic novels as well. Is that true, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, I
so what
have
is a good?
a couple of titles. Yeah, absolutely. Brooklyn Gladiator, Fishkill, Moon Lake.
That's awesome, dude. What's the process like when you're creating this work? But also, I imagine there's like when you're doing something, there's a fan base that you get to meet at conventions, signings to relate to you in a way that isn't based in your media image. Like, what is that like?
Yeah, man, like that puppy, like I'm fulfilling something from my childhood. Like that's what I'm constantly doing. I'm like
I love
when
that, man.
I'm creating comic books, it's because I love comic books when I was a kid and drew and wrote. Ever since I was inspired by comics since the beginning. It's how I learned to read. So when I get to do pay homage to all that stuff, uh, um, that I stayed up late past my bedtime watching, when I should have been doing my
Yeah,
homework. It's just, it's very fulfilling to be like, actually, no, I was doing exactly what I should have been doing. And yeah, acting is like if you're doing it right, it's like when you were playing outside as a kid and the floor is lava. It's the same fucking
yes,
thing. Yeah.
yes. I act. I always like to think about when with acting, it's like you're basically, like you said, you're playing pretend, and that's why auditions are the worst, because you're going into a room and someone's just judging your pretend,
Oh,
and it's the most stressful thing. But when you can go in there and really like be able to say, all right, well, even if I don't get this, I get to play this character for these 5 minutes and just go up and have
right.
fun with it. And it really is like that. It helped me so much in my process.
Yeah,
um
that's the Philip Seymour Hoffman philosophy. Or I don't know where he got it from, but that's where I learned it when he was on the actor studio, and he said, the odds are you're not going to get the role, but this is an opportunity for you to perform. So go in there and just give him the best performance you possibly can. And when I got that philosophy in my head, it was so much more fulfilling
yeah,
to just go and do an audition and just be like, ah, man, they're gonna remember me. That's what you should be going in there thinking. And if you get the job, great. Fuck, that's like a
yeah.
byproduct. Yeah.
What audition were you probably the most nervous for? Like, I'm assuming
Oh,
now it's like you've done so much that they're either offering it to you, or maybe you doing a chemistry test. But what was one that you were like, got it or didn't get it, like,
I think the audition process is just nerve wracking. It's like you have to be good at it. You have to get good at it, and it's so you know it's you're so vulnerable in that, in that
oh
moment,
yeah,
where and it's really you haven't had much time with the material, but you have to look like you have. You have to look like you're a master of it a lot of the time. Um, and so the most nerve wracking thing is the memorization for me.
oh
Which
obviously, yeah,
yeah, which is why I lean so heavily on improv, and thank God for paraphrasing, like
yeah.
yeah, and sometimes some of the best gold comes out of someone going up on their line, and um, so yeah, it's such a tricky thing, um, where and just controlling your nerves, man, like just controlling. It's you have to almost be a master of meditation in order to control your breath and your anxiety walking into the place. Like you can be the most prepared person on the face of the earth. You get to that door and they call your name, and then suddenly your heart's racing. You're
Yeah.
screwed. You know,
Yeah.
it's five. It's take like 5 years ago was the last time I would hear action and my heart would start racing. Like,
Yeah.
can you imagine being on set and you're supposed to be just like, totally comfortable, and you hear action, and so and you're not allowed to sweat, and geez, so you have to be like almost like a Buddhist, master,
Yeah.
a monk or something, like just have control over your body in such a way. Yeah, they don't tell you. There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot that you have to really master. You have to really know yourself. Know
You
thyself
really do.
so well. And I'm still I'm 48, man. I'm still figuring this shit out. Like, God. Yeah. And then you look at someone like Akimoche Ashalome, who who
Just
who
gets
is like
it.
who is like freaking, not even 30 yet, and is in character, is Bob Dylan, all day long and singing songs over. It's like I look at him just in awe. I'm like, wow, he has he has really mastered this philosophy of just being able to focus, man. Like, my God.
But I would also, not to discredit anything about him, but I think there's definitely probably pressure that he experiences still because he's like the it guy. But it's like
Yeah.
when once he did that "Call Me by Your Name" and everybody's like, "Oh my God, we love him." It's like when somebody when people when that as a comic when people find you funny in the room and you don't have to win them over, it's easy to go up and be funny. Because you're just like, everybody is already with you when it's your audience. You know what I'm saying? It's like going to a
Right.
room where nobody knows who you are. That could be a little bit more difficult. And that's, like I said, I'm not discrediting anything about it. Extremely talented, but it's like at a certain point, probably at like by the time he was 21, he was like, I'm the man. I know what I'm doing. Just work at the craft and get great at it and know that I can act. Because once you know you can act, it takes a lot of, you know what I mean? Like once people have said it, you're like, and you're acting coach, you're like, you can do it. Then it's just like, all right, believing in yourself. And I think he probably can. And it's same thing, we're maybe built differently where it's like, yeah, you still, you can do it, but there's still that voice in you that's just like, oh God, like, this is like I got to nail this, or am I doing this right? Or am I playing Albert right? Or am I playing Francis right?
Right.
I'm assuming.
Yeah. I mean, well, I look at Timmy, and you see someone driven by a hunger of wanting to prove themselves. I mean, he's just like he's wearing all the hats on SNL. It's just like a perfect microcosm of that. It's like, I can do everything. And so yeah, he's got the energy and the will. Like, yes, do it, man. More power to you.
Good for
go
him.
Go for as long as you can. But what was the question?
I forget. You want to talk about Mozambique?
Well, ISIS. Like, I want to talk about ISIS for a second.
Go ahead.
Because
take me anywhere. I've got so much shit. Like,
because they say it's about his wife, but then you have the song Sarah on the album, which is about the ex-wife.
Mm-hmm.
And so if ISIS is also about her, like, why choose that name ISIS? Like,
there was a stripper. There was a stripper.
Really?
I used to DJ at a strip club. ISIS was my biggest tipper. She was awesome. I swear to God, I love ISIS and Amara. They were my day shift girls. I love them to death.
I'm curious why he chose it. Maybe he knew her, but I'm like ISIS is in mythology.
It's a goddess, ancient Egyptian mythology, who is idolized as the ideal wife and protective mother. It's a female character, obviously. Yeah. So I think, like we were talking about,
her husband is Osiris. So was he alluding to that? I mean, was this kind of like their story?
I don't know.
The Osiris. Yeah.
I think, I don't have anything about that in front of me, but I think the argument is supported by the fact. So it's Sarah. Therefore, many fans believe this is on alludes to the couple showing the relationship. This argument is supported by the fact that it features in an album called Desire. So I think everything in this record is
about the desire.
It's about the desire. And, during Dylan openly sings about his radiant jewel and mystical wife. The biographical approach to writing was a rare feat for Dylan, who usually preferred to write under personas. And this is, I guess, the persona, Isis. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, dude.
Where you want to go next?
Let's talk Mozambique. While the title sounds good.
No, go ahead.
So while the title sounds exotic and topical, as the country had just declared their independence after a 10-year war with Portugal, it ends up being more of a travel brochure for an exotic, romantic getaway vacation and a chance for Bob and Jacques to rhyme things with the title. That's true. They do. There we go. Perfect. Because it's Bob Dylan, everybody wants to read into all of his songs. So even this breezy tune seems to mean more than just an exotic location and a bunch of rhymes. Excuse me. What is it like when you meet serious fans who are invested in some of the projects you've been a part of, that they may not be able to make the distinction between the intended fiction and reality? Like, let's face it, like Star Wars, the Harry Potter story is almost a religious experience to some people.
Yeah. That's like, that's all, you go to these Comic-Cons and there's all sorts of different styles of fans,
Yeah.
You have like the Walking Dead fans. They're very sweet, but they're scary.
I bet.
Walking, they're always covered in blood and they have spiky weapons. They're always like, could you sign my barbed wire freaking baseball bat? Yeah, and so it is. There are these cults, and when you walk down the street and people call you by, they just keep calling you, by your character name, like they feel like they have a piece of that. I have been lucky that the fan base for all of these different things has been very sweet. Like the Harry Potter fan base, they have all of the different houses, and it's like, they you can see a lot of their faces. They're not covered in blood. They're not wearing masks. They're just they're like wearing like a Hogwarts school uniform, whatever. It's sweet. It's like, I haven't had. Oh shit! I have. Check this out.
Tell me.
I was at MCM Comic-Con once. This happened to me once, and I'm online. I'm sorry. I'm signing, and I see this, and I'm watching the line as people are coming to get their stuff signed or whatever, and I see this guy, and he's staring at me. And he's dressed like Snape.
Okay, long hair.
He's just like Alan Rickman, and he's just staring at me, and I'm like, man, this guy is giving me some freaky vibes. And one of the producers from the con walks up and says, hey, we're tracking this guy online. Just be aware. He thinks that you're Grindelwald, the shapeshifter in disguise, and he's here to take you out. And I was like, what do you mean, take me out for coffee? Or like, what are you talking about? And they're just like, no, he's here to like assassinate you. And I go, oh shit, man. And I was like, well, how? So that's like, the guy was obviously having a schizophrenic thing, really believing it. And I said, well, okay. So I said, okay, wait, let's wait till he gets a little closer in earshot. And I said to the producer at the show, I start having this conversation so the guy can hear, so Snape could hear, and I go, oh no, of course I'm not Grindelwald. I don't have. I'm not Grindelwald posing as Jacob. That would be silly. I don't have my mustache. You think that Grindelwald wouldn't have a Jacob mustache? And I feel the guy listening and just being like, analyzing it and just being like, huh, okay, I guess he's not.
I guess he's not.
And then he leaves. But I was very close to having a very, freaky encounter with someone who like believed that I was the bad guy from the movie.
I thought you were going to go the other way and go and like once he gets into your shot, be like, "Of course, I have my ninja stars, and you guys all have the snipers are everywhere. Perfect, just in case. We're always prepared with our ninja stars
and my army of goblins. just reinforcing it. Yeah, go in the total opposite direction. Yes, let him try. I'll turn him into a donkey.
Well, you also I feel like you work so much as well. Like, how do you get time to wind down? Do you and your family get to take vacations, or is it just, are you just working, you're striking while the iron's hot and just going as hard as you can now?
Well, I've learned as a character actor that I can't stop hustling. If I want to put food on my table,
I get it.
I have to constantly be working. So
yeah,
I take breaks in between cut and action. That's what they say cut, and I go and the action, and I'm right back into it. that's when I get my breaks. Yeah, wow. Man. It's yeah. I just succumbed to the fact that that's how it's going to be, and I'll sleep later.
Hey, dude, yeah, well, do it now. You're making, like, when there's so much great work probably coming your way. It's like, why, give him a dog. Give him a dog that'll be like, the dog's here. I'll be over there. Enjoy the dog. Train the dog. We'll be good.
Yes. Oh man, you know what I would love to talk about is Joey. The song.
You want to jump to Joey? We can jump to Joey. I mean,
is that cool?
Of course. So, I mean, I've got.
Oh, we're working through. We're working through.
So okay, yeah, okay. but we'll get. But like here, let's dive in. We'll speed it up a little bit. Let's do, because we sang it already. We can't ignore One More Cup of Coffee. Valley Below,
yeah.
Which is the track tells a story of a gypsy girl and of the man who must leave her to enter the valley below. Some critics see the song as a metaphor for Dylan's crumbling relationship with his then wife, Sarah, but it was specific experience that inspired it. When Dylan was 34 years old, he visited France. While they were there, he attended a gypsy celebration. The experience left a strong impression on him. I'll never forget this one man played Russian roulette with 5 bullets in the chamber. Dylan wrote of the experience. Anyway, things went on and it was time for me to go. What do you want, Bob, as you're leaving us? I just asked for a cup of coffee for the road. They put it in a bag and they gave it to me. And I was standing there looking out in the ocean. And it was like looking at the valley below where I was standing. I would say, I don't want to call it a dark song, but I would say a little bit darker. This duet
very cinematic.
Very cinematic. This duet with Emmylou Harris is essentially about a man who must walk away from someone he loves, who is not reciprocating due to their nature. What have you had to walk away from in order to grow and find your way?
Wow. Holy shit.
It's deep sometimes, dude. It's Dylan, bro.
Wow. Anger. Like, I used to be a lot more angry.
Really? You seem like such a, and I mean this, and I'm not saying it, you just seem like you get it. Like, you understand comedy. You immediately came in. Like, I can't imagine you being angry.
That's lovely to hear. It's taken me a long time to get here. And I still, mostly if I'm angry, it comes out with being frustrated with myself, so I'm still like dealing with that kind of stuff. But I used to have a very short temper in my 20s, And if I didn't get humbled in the way that my career was projected, and if I didn't have my kids, if I didn't create a philosophy where like, okay, I guess I'm going to be hustling for the rest of my life. Like if I didn't
Yeah.
have these philosophies, I never would have been able to um, get Jacob in the Fantastic Beast movies. Like I
Yeah.
like my journey to that point was so humbling that I became Jacob walking into that room.
Yeah.
And that's how I got the part. It was life experience. Like, and if I didn't deal with that anger, I don't know if I would have gotten that far, man. I would have been, I think it would have been too ornery, to work with
Totally.
sometimes. But like I was able to kind of balance it out with like comedians are. They're very they all have anger issues. I think like comedians it's them versus the world. Like you
Sure.
rarely find a happy comedian. So yeah, man. Wow, I didn't realize that's what it was about. I just assumed that it was like it just sounds like it's from a Tarantino movie or something. Like one
It
more
really
cup of
does.
coffee. Like what like like I said, I thought it was a White Stripes song. Like I thought, like that came out of the
It
deranged
could
and
be.
strange mind of Jack White, and and the White Stripes to make these they're storytellers as well. They tell these tales in their songs, and so I would love. Is it in any movies? Does it play at the
Let me
end of
see
any
if I
movies?
got
Or?
it. Let me see if I got anything about um Joni Mitchell recalls Dylan. They may provide the song title. She and Dylan. No, I know this. I don't think it's in movies, but Tom Jones covered the song in 2021 on his album "Surrounded by Time." Can you imagine, like Tom? I mean, I haven't heard it, but I bet it's like somehow it's now all sexual and like one more cup of coffee when I go. Chicks there, panties
throwing
flying
his
at him. It
throwing his
definitely.
neck at
I
him.
love that you said that it's like got Tarantino esque. It
Yeah.
definitely could be played, in an intense scene. It adds
Pulp
a lot of
Fiction.
depth. Very Pulp Fiction-y. I know you keep mentioning the White Stripes. They didn't cover this, but they had covered ISIS.
Oh,
Um,
they covered
yeah,
ISIS.
they did cover ISIS. Like this. This is. I don't think it wasn't anything, but I mean, it should be, dude. You should like
Yeah.
throw this out this next time you're on a film. Be like, what would be good here? One more cup of coffee. Be
Yeah.
like the drink, no, the song. Book it. Yeah, dude. This then oh sister.
Oh,
Uh,
sister. Yeah. What is that
oh
about? Is that also about Sarah? Like, are these all
dude,
about?
it's. I think they're here. Let me. They're all. It's so funny. In a typical Dylan fashion, oh sister seems on the surface uh but becomes more complex the longer you look at it. The gist of it is that Dylan is accusing a woman he calls his sister of being cold to him. You should not treat me like a stranger, he says, because time is an ocean, but it ends at the shore. That's a great lyric, by the way. And she may not see tomorrow. The whole implication is that life's too short to be pretty. And Dylan's reminding that he, like everybody else, can die at any time. And then the song, here's where it gets more Dylan-y. The song gets weirder and more biblical through. In the last verse, Dylan states that he and his mystical sister grow up together, died, were reborn, and then mysteriously saved. Yeah, dude. This
Jesus.
is Dylan performed "Oh Sister" live in a Chicago TV studio in '75. He dedicated it to the legendary music figure John Hammond, who is Dylan's first producer.
Right.
This closes out the first record, first side, I'm sorry, and then it goes into your song. This is the one. This is the one. Fucking Joey.
Joey.
Hey, Joey. This is the longest song on the record, and an open side two is sort of an epic book and a hurricane that opens side one. Now the
So
thing about
Joe.
Joey. Go ahead. No, please go ahead.
No, I'm wondering why this song was never in a Scorsese movie. I mean, it
I
could
think
have been. I know it's about Joey Gallo, but it could have been applied to a lot of Joeys, I think.
no, I think you're right. I mean, has he not used it? Adam, can you check to see if it's been used in anything in Joey? I don't know if it's been
Yeah.
in a Scorsese, but yeah, if you and so obviously you know the story. Hurricane was a topical story, but whereas Hurricane was literally about Bob's belief that an innocent man deserved justice, this one is way more controversial. Joey Gallo was a mafioso who had been recently gunned down in a restaurant. Although Bob had said that Jacques wrote the lyrics and he only sang them, Bob took some shit for this by portraying Joey as
Oh
sort of
shit.
a Robin Hood character who was
Yeah, yeah.
noble and something of like a folk hero. Lots of songs in the past sort of glorified outlaws in this way, but the actual people they were writing and singing about had been dead for years. So this one was legendary. Yeah. One, excuse me, has to imagine, let's bring it back to you, that the Godfather films from only a few years earlier probably played a big part in the mythology of the mafia. All in all, from all accounts, Joey was not a good guy. However, even to this day, we romanticized and tried to find the good in these characters. Now, we talked about your involvement in The Offer, which is the story making of the first Godfather film. Some people might look at that specific story and era with some trepidation that it might open old wounds with some of the people who had first had an issue with The Godfather being made even decades later. Were there any concerns that there when you guys made the show, like any blowback, so to speak?
Well, I think that at this point we won over the Godfather won all the mafiosos in the world, so they were rooting for us. But during the making of the Godfather, the mafia didn't want it to happen, and they Joey Colombo, who Al Ruddy, the producer, got the okay from, he was connected to the mob, but he was a politician. And this is all in The Offer. So even though a lot of the history has been smushed, it covers a lot of these topics. And so when Joey Colombo was assassinated, Joey Gallo comes in to fill that void, and he has to now. So now Al Ruddy has to now answer to Joey Gallo, and so crazy Joey Gallo. So there's a whole sequence in The Offer where Joey is extorting Al for exorbitant amounts of money, and they link Joey's assassination at Umberto's Clam House with the scene. It's a great scene where Brando gets the hit put on him. The classic scene where Fredo fumbles with the gun. Yeah. Papa! That fucking scene. So there's this great sequence in The Offer. You got to see it, where Joey says, I want my money, tonight. It's my birthday. I'm going to go to this clam house and celebrate. I want you to bring the money there. And then, but he gets, spoilers, if you know the history. So I'm listening to Joey, and I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. The connection here with The Godfather. And I feel like, man, I wish we used this song in The Offer. It would have been fucking perfect. I don't know. We missed an opportunity, I think. But I love all that mob stuff. I grew up in Brooklyn.
The mythology. I mean, how many interesting? Did you guys know any real gangsters?
Yeah. I did. I took a pretty famous gangster. I shouldn't say gangster. Mafia. What do you say? Mafia hitman's. I must have been insane. I took a mafia hitman's daughter to the prom.
No way. All right, so you better have her back by 11 if anything happens. I'm letting you know right now. I know where your
I'm
mom lives. I
watching
know
you.
where yeah, I'm watching. Oh God, dude.
I used to
Like,
go and hang out at his house. I used to, yeah. So I was surrounded as a kid, growing up Brooklyn, by. So I'm fascinated by these stories, and yeah, Crazy Joe. So yeah, and I was surprised to hear him make him into this Robin Hood hero. Like I remember him being a bit of a maniac,
yeah.
So I'm just I'm curious why he chose to do the song, put
Let's
it on the
see if I
same album as the Hurricane.
can.
It's just an interesting way to go. But I love the connection to The Godfather.
Oh my God. I think here, I'm seeing if I got any stuff about it. The song generated controversy, like we said, it glorified the violent activities of Gallo and took liberties with the truth. Dylan responded to these accusations in 2009 interview published on his website. Jacques wrote the words. Jacques had a theatrical mind and he wrote a lot of plays. So the song might have been theater of the mind. I just sang it. Some say Davy Crockett takes a lot of liberties with the truth and Billy the Kid too. FDR in Trinidad. Have you heard of that? Yeah, I mean, details of the murder have been published by Donald Godard's book, Joey, a biography, while Gallo's friends, actor Jerry Orbach, oh, I didn't know that, and his wife, Marta, were introduced to Dylan through Levy, or Levy, and hearing Jerry and Marta talk about Gallo, Dylan and Levy wrote the entire song in one night. I love it. Dude, it's 11 minutes, and I mean, by this point of the record, man, I'm into it. Like, I'm really this is crazy for me to say that, Dan, because you would have I wish I could have started with this record as the first one to get into Dylan on the podcast, because I think I would have appreciated listening to this and then going back, because then it goes into Romance in Durango. Now it's like we just talked about Joey and the idea of romanticizing and revisiting the histories of unsavory characters. Bob Dylan wrote and performed the score for the 1973. Have you ever seen this? His Sam Peckinpah film, Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. So I took, I went to film school in Baltimore, and I took a class on New Hollywood. So basically, the era after the studio system fell apart, and you get the Coppolas, you get the Scorseses, you get the Sam Peckinpahs, and goddamn, Bob Dylan's in the movie. And it's just phenomenal, man. So the 73 Sam Peckinpah film, which was a revisionist Western based on legendary characters in the American history. As outlaw songs, they were very popular, not just by Dylan, but by many popular songwriters, especially musicians. So let's lighten the load a little bit. Did you ever end up on the wrong side of the law? Have you ever, I've talked about some of my past crime breeze on the podcast before, but have you ever gotten in trouble with the law? Brooklyn kid.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, before pot was legal, there was a lot of, Jesus, fellas, run! Like a lot of
yeah.
running from the men in blue. Yeah, definitely. But never caught. I was a Ferris Bueller in that regard. But let me think here. The closest. Oh my God, this is a crazy story.
Take me there, dude. Exclusive.
Exclusive. So so I did this movie Fanboys out in Albuquerque, and we got bored pretty easily out in the middle of nowhere next to this. It was a military airport. We were and every morning at 6 a.m. we would wake up to a show of force, which was them just jet after jet taking off. You'd just be like, holy crap, we had PTSD from that, just like every 6 a.m. waking up from the military airport. Anyway, so like a bunch of morons, we we went out and because we were really bored, we bought a bunch of weapons that were BB guns, high-powered BB guns that looked like the real thing, you know.
Wow.
So we were morons. So we made like Kevlar out of cardboard, and we wore Darth Vader masks and shit, and we would run around the hotel shooting each other with high-powered BB guns. And so much to the point where we had taken over the hotel basically with just like BBs. Were just like you'd run down the hall and you'd be like, because you were up to your freaking ankles and freaking
I love
freaking BBs. And then the manager of the hotel comes out and is like, you guys, you can't be running through the hotel like this. You have to go outside. We're like, and we're like, what? We're like, what? They're like, just go in the parking lot. And they're like, okay. So now we're running around outside of the freaking hotel with high-powered BB. And I'm sitting there, I'm like sniping people, you know, from my position. And I look over my shoulder and I see a cop car just slowly easing up behind me. I go, oh shit. I drop my machine gun, BB gun, and I start like trying to find my other friends and be like, guys, dude, we're surrounded by freaking cops. And so these two other guys come running out, and they're all like filled to the brim with BBs. And I'm like, dude, we have to get the hell out of here. Where the cops are probably, going to arrest us right now. Everyone else has run inside the hotel. So we're the last three schmucks who are walking around. So one of us says, okay, we got to gather all the stuff. We can't leave all the stuff out here. We're like, oh yeah, of course. So like morons, we are now three idiots with bags of what looks like ammunition and just handfuls of guns. Just la la la, walking into the freaking hotel. I see out of the corner of my eye, 3 cop cars pull up over here, 3 cop cars pull up over here, and they were already out with their guns drawn. Drop it. And I knew just in my head, if I don't drop whatever I have in my hand right now, I'm done. And next thing I know, it was the fastest I'd ever been on the curb. My hands were behind my back. They were looking at my passport. And then the manager came out of the hotel and vouched for us. And they were like, oh my God. Like, they were like, you guys are so lucky that you did exactly what we wanted you to
wow.
do. Because if you flinch for a second, you guys look like freaking bank robbers to us,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, the stupidest thing I've ever done. So don't do that at home, kids.
Yeah, if you take anything from this podcast, do not. Oh man, that's crazy. What a great story.
But what about the fact that so we were talking about Billy the Kid and Pat Garrett, right? And
yeah.
So I remember in an interview where Dylan, and Dylan's name in that movie is Elias.
Oh, I know, yeah,
or Alias.
Yeah,
might as well be Alias. And I remember him. I may be crazy, but I remember him saying in an interview once that he felt that he was maybe reincarnated Billy the Kid. Did you ever hear that?
No, I never did.
I maybe I'm making this up, but I feel like he had Dylan himself had such a connection to that time period, and I don't know whether it's just part of the legend that he was creating for himself or the mythology he was creating for himself, but I feel like he kind of, if you look at pictures of Billy the Kid, he kind of has a Dylan thing going on. It's very strange, and I don't know. I like to lean into that mythology as well. That he's also, and I think like One More Cup of Coffee, like these songs, Durango, Romance and Durango, they have these cinematic, he has that country thing in him, and he
does.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just. I think it just adds to his legend.
Totally.
That he's also maybe possibly the reincarnated Billy the Kid. Who knows?
You don't know, and that's why I think we're sitting here talking about, it, and that's why he has all these records on here. It's not, nothing's cut and dry with him. There is like I said, like a mystery. I mean, every song has pages and pages of notes that I could sit here and talk about, because so many people have dedicated, I mean, I'm going to say their lives. Like, dude, you actually did the scene with them. One of the guys that was on the podcast before, who I was going to see if he wanted to join us, James from Saturday Night Live.
Oh yeah, he was. Yeah, he introduces. You talking about in the movie?
In the movie, yeah. Have
That's
you?
a
Have
big,
you?
no,
Did,
yeah.
did
He's
you
got a
talk to
small
him?
part. I wish his
I know.
part was bigger. Yeah, it was.
I,
But he was fun. It was fun to hang out with him
did you talk Dylan with
on
him?
set. Yeah, he has many different Dylan impressions.
I
Like,
know.
and I wonder if that's how he got the attention of the casting people. Yeah, he's hysterical. Yeah, I wish they let him do more in the movie. He's just like, oh, there. People who are SNL fans are gonna be like, oh, there he is, and then he's like, just comes and goes.
Gone.
But yeah, man, that was fun. There's a lot of great cameos, a lot of some great ensemble. Yeah, he's cool. Yeah. What did you guys talk about when you talk
No,
about
but
Dylan on this?
he's a huge Dylan fan. So
Right.
he was like, when I dug this record, he was the first person I texted to be like, dude, this is the first one that I got. I got it.
Nice.
Like, I got it immediately. And like, Black Diamond Boy, like, or that Black Diamond Bay. I mean, it's like I said, it's everything has a thing. So this is about the destruction of a tiny island by a volcano in real time, and what the inhabitants are going through. But it also has a removed indifference, because the story's narrator is watching the catastrophic story unfold on the news and then walks away to get a beer, which is, I mean, it's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing.
Yeah, totally. I have like, a deeper question about it, but this basically describes, like, essentially what people on the island are doing at the time, often drawing attention to the ironic futility of their actions. For example, one of the islanders is preparing to commit suicide when the volcano erupts and destroys the island. The song also describes the news watcher's indifference to the catastrophes he hears on Walter Cronkite's TV broadcast, as the narrator gets to another beer rather than watch the news story about the catastrophe on the island. He says, I never did plan to go anyway to Black Diamond Bay. How do you stay? How do you stay, separate your point of view and concerns and your creativity in your professional life with the stuff that's going on in the world? I don't want to get too heady or political,
Right.
but it's like you're like I said, you seem like an upbeat guy. It's like how do you with that being an artist, how do you not get overwhelmed by what's happening?
Wow. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
There you are. The sipping coffee while the world is ending, It's like,
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, Jesus. And I wonder, because just to bring it back to a complete unknown for a second, there's a great moment in the movie where the Cuban Missile Crisis is happening, where everyone's like, holy shit, it's the end of the world, and everyone in New York are like, they're packing up their bags, and they can't get taxis, and everyone's flipping out, and Joan Baez grabs her guitar for some reason, and it is now running through the streets, like, what is she gonna do? And then she hears Bob playing at the Gaslight, which was Albert's club, and she goes and she sees him playing for all these people who found refuge there, while everyone outside is like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. And they're there, having coffee. Like,
yeah.
And so I that's, it just encapsulates that idea. Like, it's like that moment in the Pianist where he's trying to get a date with the girl, and the wall behind him blows up, and he's still trying to. What was your number?
Yeah.
Like, like we're living in this world, and that moment with the Cuban Missile Crisis is a reflection of the echo of the
Yeah.
world we're living in now. Where we're whatever 1 second to midnight, and so how do you get along, right? That's what you're asking. How do you?
Yeah. How do you do it?
You get a puppy,
Yeah.
you try
Totally.
to see, you freaking simplify, you do you do transcendental meditation.
Yep.
You kiss your kids, you tuck them in at night, and you just like appreciate the little things, because if you focus on what the media is trying to beat you over the head with, you're gonna go crazy.
Yeah.
And it's better. I'm lean toward the kind of the metaphysical, like, as I keep saying. So, like the Maharishi effect. Like, if we're all focused on the end of the world, then that may well happen. But if we're focused on preventing it,
love and empathy. Yeah.
So maybe while we're sipping our coffee, we can ponder.
Hey, there's you should look out over there. That's gonna blow up. Yeah, just at least move over there. Yeah. It's like yeah.
Yeah, but
help a little bit.
Like they live through some dark stuff, and that's in the music there. That's I think that I'm just curious why he chose to write about that. Why focus on that? What does that say about?
Joseph Conrad's novel Victory was a major influence on the song, which references many of the themes. The song title, The Island, the Volcano, the Gambling, and the Panama Hat are all references to that book. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't really go in more than that, but I mean, 7 minutes and 30 seconds. It's a heavy song, but I mean, it's beautiful. It's like, it really is like, it's a great song. It goes with the flow of the record. And then lastly, we have Sarah. It closes the album out. We've talked about mythology, and we've also talked about the demystification of Bob Dylan. While Sad-Eyed Lady of the Lowlands was a tribute song about Sarah from the Blonde on Blonde 10 years earlier that contained some cryptic elements and romance at the beginning of their love, this picks up 10 years later during the turbulent part of the relationship, which eventually ends in their divorce a year later. It seems very frank and biographical without the facade of poetry, while it is still a tribute to the love he has and shares with her. In a way, it seems to be an attempt to convince himself, her, and the world that love, that of love, while it's disintegrating. That's what it is. Perfect. All right. One notable line talks about him writing Sad-Eyed Lady of the Lowlands for Sarah at New York's famous and infamous Chelsea Hotel. Are you the kind of person who spends a lot of time in your past? Do you like dwell on the regrets or missteps or questionable choices you made, or do you let them go and stay present? You had mentioned transcendental meditation. I'm assuming you do that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a good way. That's a good way to release that stuff. Yeah, definitely have all sorts of things, regrets, different, wishing I had gone down different paths and different situations, percolating beneath the surface. But you do, and wondering about, was that the right choice or whatever. But then transcendental meditation allows you to get into a state of mind where these things start to release like bubbles, out of the dark waters of your subconscious, and you're in such a state that you can just observe it and watch it and let it go.
Yeah.
And just that act, you do that enough, and you start to feel lighter. It's like it's your own personal healing therapy that you can do. Man, it's definitely helped me in a lot of situations. Um, yeah, Sarah. That you know, yeah, that is that with Emmylou as well. Who Emmylou?
Yes, let me just double
Okay,
check that.
there's something
Yeah,
about
I don't have it. It doesn't say if she's singing. Let me see if it's on the
yeah.
thing. So what do you have? What were you about to say?
There's he. I think there's like an alchemy. Like he knows. Dylan knows that he doesn't have the best voice in the world,
Mhm.
but he can hit a note, and if he combines it in harmony with an angelic tone, that he can create he can create a sound that is penetrating, man. Like it's
Yeah.
like and it's like being a it's like a master alchemist or something. That Sarah, it's such a simple thing, but man, it's like it bores into your freaking mind.
Yeah.
Um, and I appreciate I marinated in this album for the first time because of this podcast, and I really appreciate being introduced to a
Oh,
lot
I
of these
love that.
songs.
I love that, dude. Yeah, that's what's so great about it is like why we keep doing it is because like I would have listened to this and been like, oh, this is it's a good album, but it's like the more you learn about it, the more you like find out the meanings about it. I mean, dude, a little known fact, it was Emmylou Harris that sang backup. This I don't know if obviously because I just found this out. Well, let's talk about pressure. While recording this song, Sarah actually came to the studio and sat there
Oh, fuck!
listening in stunned silence. Yeah.
Oh my god!
Isn't that crazy?
I wonder if wow. I wonder if Dylan just like he was the kind of person I think that would just yeah, we don't need to have a conversation. Let me just play this song for her.
Yeah, dude.
like whoa.
Totally.
He's such a mischievous imp of a person like that. Like I'm not surprised that that's how she was introduced to the song about
Let's
her. Oh,
I
and
want to
by the way, many of the songs in this album are dedicated to you.
Oh
Whoa.
yeah. I want to talk about critiques in your career. What single person's reaction or review were you most concerned with? Not necessarily a critic, but have you ever waited breathlessly for someone to let you know what they thought of something you were a part of?
Oh yeah. I really, really wanted to know what Jim Mangold thought of my my performance in
Really?
a complete like I needed I needed that validation. Like I was like, am I how am I doing? Swimming with the big fish. Like how am I doing here? And yeah, and so yeah, I spent I spent um all the way up until the last second of filming. I was like so he finally like gave me the smallest thing, the smallest piece of information, and then he was just like, um, yeah, it's good to have someone that you can trust is gonna bring it, and you don't have to worry about them. And I was just
What?
like,
Yeah.
wow, thanks,
What's the
man.
I love that. What's the best what's the best advice you got from a director? What's the best note? Is there anything from all the directors you've worked with? Is there something that sticks out with you?
Ah, well, I guess I had an acting teacher right out of college, Eric Loeb, pretty early on. I was like taking acting classes, and I was just trying to find my way. Like I didn't have any representation. I was doing stand up comedy. I was like, what? Where am I going here? And I would go to his class, and I would stick out,
Mhm. Yeah.
and he would say to me like, um and I would like hang out with him afterward, and we'd hang out and chill, and he would say like, "You're gonna work forever." Like he just knew it. He's like, you're gonna work." And I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah. As long as you believe that the scene you're in is really happening. If you believe that that what you're saying is actually what's happening in reality, you're gonna go a long
Mhm.
way." And I'm still working toward that, But
Wow.
that was definitely something that, because that's what it is. Like if you can get, if you're so immersed in the play, in the imagination of it, that you forget that it's fantasy.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about, I think. Um, but that's crazy. That's literally crazy. Dipping into that, and then
Sure.
being able to come out of that. It takes an interesting mind.
Oh my God, especially with some of
Uh,
the work that you've done. I mean, you've done like, shit where it's like, oh yeah, this can, complete unknown or the offer. It's like those are like, real situations in real time that actually happen. But then, like fucking you're doing, The Walking Dead or Fantastic Beasts, and you have to like,
yeah.
believe all this shit. That's where I think the meditation probably comes in handy, like to like level you in.
Yeah, the meditation comes in handy when you're on set and maybe you have a little bit of nerves or something, and
Mhm.
you can meditate and rise. That's the transcendental. You rise above the chaos of the rushing
Mhm.
river, as opposed to getting swept up into it, and the next thing you know, you just
Totally.
you can't focus. But it really helps you focus, man, and it
Oh
really
my
helps
God.
you with, like, breathing is so much of it. Like if you're able to control your breathing, that's, I feel like, 50% of acting. If you can just be calm, uh, then you're free.
Yeah, completely. Um, Sarah's the last song, closes out the record. All in all, like this is, like I said, this is probably so far my favorite Bob Dylan record. Now I'm saying that as a guy that's
Nice.
I haven't listened to Bob Blonde on Blonde all the way through. I haven't listened to Blood on the Tracks or Highway 61 Revisited. But I mean, this
A
is
good one.
this is this is a fucking good one. Adam, is there anything that we missed that we need to mention? I mean, I've got some filler facts. Let me see if we've got what records have we done.
You're all
So you got
good. You're good.
this is his sixth, and out of 11 times we're going to talk about Bob Dylan on the podcast. 8 appearances. We've got Time Out of Mind, Love and Theft, John Wesley Harding, The Basement Tapes, Modern Times, Desire. We still have The Free
Nice.
Will and Bob Dylan. We still have Bring It All Back Home, Blood on the Tracks, Blonde on Blonde, and Highway 61 Revisited. He has got 2 records in the top 10, and he has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's got 5 records in the bottom 100.
You should
Yeah.
watch the movie. Go watch it, Complete Unknown, and then do Highway 61 Revisited.
Well, that
I
we're going to
think.
be doing. Highway 61 Revisited we're not going to be doing that episode until 2028. We got
Oh
some time,
shit.
but yeah, we got some time. We're going in order, but I'm going to go see the movie now. I don't have any shows tonight, so I'm
Gotcha.
excited. I'm really excited to see this,
Cool, man.
especially after talking to you, dude. And this has been great. So please come back. Usually it won't be this long, but it's
Nice.
like we had so much. We were talking about Bob Dylan. There's just so much. And dude, the fans, like, they get, if we miss one thing or we fuck something up, like, they let it be known. So this was great. I ask everybody these questions. What's your favorite song on this record, bud? Hello? Is he there? Did we lose him?
Yep, we lost him.
He'll come back.
We really have to start rapping though, because I have a feeling it's going to take forever for his stuff to upload if his internet connection hasn't been great.
Okay,
So.
it's all good.
Oh my
Dan,
God.
you got it. Don't worry,
I'm
we're
back.
wrapping up. Don't worry. We got
Okay,
you.
good.
I got you, baby.
I'm here.
All right.
It's my
Favorites?
man. It's been my pleasure, and
Dude.
it's an honor to be part of the podcast where you're digging desire, man. I'm
Dude.
so happy that we finally won you over with the Dylan.
I know. It's crazy. I've got the good thick of it to do. So, all right. So I ask everybody these questions. What's your favorite song on this record?
Ooh. This is the story of the hurricane. I mean, I love that. I love that. I love this song because you can. I mean, it's a powerful song. You really rock out to it.
Very
But
powerful.
I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say, I really was in ISIS. That was it was my first introduction to ISIS. Really enjoyed ISIS. But I'm gonna say Joey because of
Me too.
Yeah,
I love Joey. Yeah, I really do. I
love that.
Love it. Yeah,
The connection to the Godfather.
Love it. Love that. Is there anything on this record that you skip over? Like, is there
Mozambique is a little too for me. For me, you know. But everything else is pretty fun. And I love how like oh man, that's like One More Cup of Coffee is connected to the White Stripes, who I love, and some of the songs reminded me of Raconteurs as well.
Sure.
And I just realized like so many, like Tom Petty and like so many of my favorite bands that I love are I couldn't have even existed without Dylan. So I just love coming back to the source. Coming to the source is just delightful. It's like the fountain of youth here. Yeah.
Totally. This can you fuck to this record? Is this a song you can put on when you're making love?
Yeah. Only if you have a tambourine. If you're holding a tambourine, anything could happen.
This is too Dylan, regardless of the music, it could be like, setting the mood or even have that kind of like sexual ambiance in the melody. It's just with a Dylan record, there's too many lyrical things going on that you can't not like
get
pay
distracted.
attention to. Yeah. So I don't know if you can fuck to this. What would be your elevator pitch to get someone to listen to this record? Like, how do you sum this record up?
Ooh, yeah. Do you like songs that are historically accurate but also like rock and roll and a little bit of a samba beat? And then
dude.
Out of nowhere. And then, if you like historically accurate music that you can rock to, then this is the album for you. Each song is a gold mine for some kind of relationship issue that he was having with his wife. If you're into that kind of thing. And if you like discovering that a lot of your favorite music came straight from Dylan himself, this is the album for you.
I think if you're on the fence and about Bob Dylan or you need a starting off point, I don't know if this is the perfect place to start off, but goddamn, this is one that I think right off the jump you're going to be able to dig, dude. I can't thank you enough. Thank you for sticking around too, man. I know it went a little bit longer than we were supposed to, but I was having so much fun, and I hope you had fun because this really was great. Please promote away anything you want to promote, anything you have coming up. We'll do it at the beginning and the end too, but anything we should be looking forward to?
Yeah, man. Oh, I got this movie that's doing really well in the UK called Dave 2. I'm in that. That's out now. I'm working on a show called The Rainmaker. which is like based on the Grisham novels, and I
Oh
get to
wow.
play a fun part with that. That's we're working on that now. And yeah, there's a bunch of stuff percolating I can't really talk about, but it's getting exciting over here.
Dude, that's awesome, man. You're so talented, and I love watching you work. So I'm excited to see what you're gonna do. And please come back on the podcast. We've got so many more records. We'll send you the list and stay in touch. And dude, when I come out to England in August, please come if you're in town and free, come to a show. Come on stage, sing a song with me. Like, let's fucking party, dude. You're awesome.
Absolutely, man. That sounds great. My pleasure.
Sweet.
I'd love to do that.
Sweet. Thank you again, brother.
Thanks for having me, man.